All right, everyone, we are here to be the very best, like no one ever was.
Oh man!
I had to do it. I had to do a little bit of it.
To have the theme playing.
Get a little.
Yeah,
I don't want to get
copyright.
I don't want to get copyrighted too hard. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I've been planning this one for a little while now. I had honestly originally not planned to work on this one very hard until after Your Hero Academia was finished. But, over the last year especially, I can tell there's starting to be a little bit of burnout with the story. Like, I still love it. I'm still excited to be working on it. But the audience seems like they could do with something a little bit different at this point. So I reached out to a few of my regulars and was like, hey, what would you guys think if I started releasing this content in tandem with the Your Hero Academia podcast and just split up the time? They all seem to think, like, unanimously from everybody that I talked to, they were open to the idea. They seemed excited for it. So I was like, all right, you know what? Let's go ahead and change format.
And everyone who's screened it so far has been enjoying it, between people in our generation and even my grandma. So it's been a good.
Yeah, for those of you wondering, it's like, okay, how much do I need to know to enjoy it? Look, I wrote this so that a very nice 70-year-old lady who's the only thing she knows about Pokemon is that
they're little
Pikachu
Japanese animals.
I think she might know who Pikachu is.
Maybe. She just thinks they're cute little cartoon.
But I've read her this story, and she loves it.
Yes.
And this is for the record. This is not for the most part, she's a very nice grandma lady. Unless you do something wrong with writing, in which case she's just mean.
She will tear.
She's so mean.
She is 100% going to be on your grammar and your diction.
Oh my goodness,
I love this woman. So she's a good sounding board for sure. If I'm being too nice and not paying good enough attention, she will 100%.
Do you remember how I first presented this story to you?
You didn't tell me what world it was in. You were just like, hey.
I was like, hey, I'm gonna try this thing. What? Just listen for the first couple pages and tell me what you think.
And so the first few pages, there's no mention of Pokemon. So it took me a hot minute to be and then as soon as Eevee leaps on the scene, I hope that's not a spoiler because I haven't played the chapter yet.
Yeah.
I was like, are you serious? Which is the same thing I told you when you asked me to marry you.
Yeah.
I guess that's just my default sound. Pleasantly surprised response.
I think that's turned out pretty well so far, so hopefully that speaks us to the quality of the story.
I love our marriage, and I'm enjoying the story quite a bit.
All right.
So, that being said, is there anything else you want to cover?
Okay, so I do know that there are some members in our audience who haven't played Pokemon, they know what it is, but they don't know much about it. So the game that this story is going to be based on is Pokemon Conquest,
which is very different from every other Pokemon game.
It's a crossover series between Pokemon and another game series called Nobunaga's Ambition. It's loosely based on historical events from Japan in the early 1500s and 1600s, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so a lot of the names of the warlords and stuff are derived from actual warlords, historical figures that existed. Yes.
You never told me this.
Hadn't I told you about that?
No.
No. Okay. So
I just thought it was all made up.
So it's a crossover. Now the Ransei region that this takes place in, they assign different warlords to different Pokemon types and stuff. So basically gym leaders. But
hilarious.
They spread them out across the continent.
It's amazing. And it's more of a strategy game.
It is more of a strategy game. And people who've been following this channel long enough, they know that I love the Fire Emblem series. And I think that this game actually might have kind of launched me into that because I've always liked strategy games.
From what I have seen of you playing this game, it looks a lot like a Fire Emblem game.
To me it's very much like a Fire Emblem game. In terms of functionality.
Lots of moving troops around and figuring
using the terrain to your advantage however you can. Yeah. So let's see. So this thing was released back in 2012. So the premise is that there's a legend that's foretold that the person who unifies all 17 kingdoms of the Ransei region, which is the place that they're taking that this whole thing's taking place on, they will have a chance to encounter the legendary Pokemon who created the Ransei region. That's Arceus. Although, in some other legends, it's that Arceus shaped the world. So I don't know. The lore concerning that Pokemon in particular changes a lot throughout the years. But there have been some things that came out about Arceus since this game was released that I'm definitely going to try and incorporate later on.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this game, so it came out back when Generation 5 was a thing. So this would have been when...
what were the starters?
What's that?
Starters for
it would have been Snivy, Oshawott, and Tepig.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was like 600 something Pokemon at the time, and because of the way that the regions work and all that, I've decided I'm just going to include Pokemon from Generation 5 and back.
Okay.
And so within this game, there's only like 200 something Pokemon that appear, so I'm expanding on that roster already.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons I chose to do this is because it's going to give me a lot more opportunities to expand on the lore that I'm creating. Like, I'm using the lore that is given in the game, which admittedly is kind of basic.
Yeah.
But I'm able to expand on it a lot more. Like, if I have access to more of these, like, basically minor deity figures.
Yeah.
It allows me to be a little more creative with, like, okay, why does this country do this? Why do these people believe this? How did this come about? Like, I've even got an explanation for, like, how future type Pokemon show up, like Porygon Z and all them.
Dang.
Yeah, they're not supposed, like when they first appeared in the Pokemon show, you know, they lived, like, primarily, like, in computers. Well, computers aren't a thing in this region.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be based off of feudal style Japan.
Yeah.
So how does that come about? I have an answer for it.
Okay.
And I think it actually, I'm actually gonna get into that one, like, somewhere in chapter, like, 3 or 4, I think.
Okay.
But, like, it's just one of those little minor things. But you know me, like, I like being able to take the little details and kind of, like, give more life into the story because, like, you know, in every country's history, there's that one, or in every country, there's, like, one little region that has this folk tale or, like, this historical retelling that explains some things from way back that someone from the next state over or whatever, they wouldn't understand it.
Yes.
But it still plays a part in their day-to-day life.
Little regional cultural things.
Regional cultural things that still interact with other cultures.
Yeah.
And I enjoy getting to not necessarily make those things happen, but shed a little light on them.
Nice.
Because it's all connected. I enjoy drawing those connections together.
Nice.
Yeah. So, in the game, you know, you start out as this character, like, they give a very brief flashback of, like, how your character met Eevee as a small child and you've been together for a long time. And then at the beginning of the game, it's just like, oh, you're the new warlord of this place. Doesn't explain how you got there. Doesn't explain, like...
Yeah, so you're giving this main character a backstory.
Yes.
Because instead of just playing first person and knowing nothing about yourself or what you're doing, you're giving, you know, you're building up. Now we know who this main character is and we can move forward with the story. It's not just... No, I am fighting so-and-so.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Now
so
I am
the
fighting
game was
so-and-so.
So interestingly enough, the game was actually very well received. Like, not just so the main aggregator was Metacritic. They're some of the hardest people to please in terms of gameplay and all that.
Okay.
They gave it an 8 out of 10.
Wow, okay.
Which, you know, for a children's game, like, they tend to lean more towards the
Adult
like
games.
young, like, teenager young adult content
Okay.
stuff. Like, Metacritic, like, you know, they're the ones that, like, are the official reviewers for stuff like the new Spider-Man games and stuff like that.
And they actually gave it a pretty decent review.
Yeah. So the official score was 80 out of 100. Others that are lesser known, such as Destructoid, gave an 8 out of 10. Famitsu is a place in Japan, 34 out of 40. I don't know what the numbering system is with that, but okay. IGN is another very big review board for gaming in general. They gave it a 9 out of 10.
All right.
And, like, being that it was a children's game, like, it has a lot of replay value, like, which, you know, Pokemon is very well known for.
Yes.
You know, even after you beat the main game, you know, you're going to keep sinking hours into this thing.
Which I think is interesting that there's a lot of replay value because in typical Pokemon, you're exploring and you're catching things and you never know what you're going to find. In this one, it has a story that's like a predictable pattern, right?
So what ends up happening is after you beat the main story, and you know, I'm only covering the main story.
Okay.
But after you beat the main story, what ends up happening is you basically get a bunch of different, like, what-if scenarios. Like, what if this person had tried to take over the continent instead? Or what if these guys were just being hoodlums and you, like, only go through 4 kingdoms instead of through all 17?
Interesting.
Yeah, so
That's
there's
cool.
like 36... like, not all of them are the same length as the original story.
But there's different
But
outcomes.
there's a bunch of different... Yeah, there's 36 different scenarios,
Like,
each
on
one
different choices
featuring...
you make?
No, they're each featured on a different warlord or vice warlord.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
little side stories almost.
Yeah. And so like, okay. So some characters from those will be appearing. Mm-hmm. They won't play like the same role as they would have in their own stories, but they do appear within the main story just to a lesser degree.
But as of right now, you're just planning on going through the actual just regular.
So yeah, I'm gonna go like in terms of like the structure of this story, it's just gonna be like the first playthrough.
Okay.
Which is, that's 17 battles that you go through essentially.
I wouldn't stand too strong on that because I know you and you're going to get some crazy random idea and add to it later because
I mean, I don't really see how I would do that unless
you say that now.
No, because now,
but I know you.
Like if another country got involved or another continent got involved, maybe, but it's like
I shouldn't have mentioned it.
The conflict is within Ransei, like that's the main focus of the story. Mm-hmm. Is like what's going on in this continent. Mm-hmm. Like that, I think they mention other countries or continents sometimes, but they never come to have any kind of forbearance on the story.
Okay.
So like to me, like they don't really matter.
I'm just trying to prevent a resurrection kudai catastrophe with your readers.
Funny.
Because if they're going to go back to the first podcast. I'm going to
stand by that.
All right, because if you change it, they're going to go back to the first podcast.
No, I'm standing by the resurrection.
I know, but they're going to come back and be like, "You went back on your word. You said it was just going to be the main campaign. Now you're doing all this other stuff. Like watch." So
like, I mean, if I stayed like main campaign, like that's all I did, this would be over in like 20 chapters or so. But again, I'm trying to expand on like the culture.
No,
and all that.
I know. No, I'm not saying. Never mind.
Like
you don't understand what I'm saying.
Not sorry. Like
you don't.
So the way the game starts is like you start in the normal type kingdom, you take over the fire type, then you go into the water and grass type, and then you move along through the.
Yes, honey, I understand that.
So in terms of that's how the story's like that's the way the story's gonna progress. I know. Okay, I don't know what you're saying then.
Okay, never mind.
Like, what did you think I was gonna do?
I didn't say you weren't going to do that.
I'm very confused now. I don't understand.
I'm going to hope that everybody else listening understands what I've been trying to say this whole time. All I'm saying is you need to stop saying, I'm not going to, or I'm going to do this when you're planning something out, because what happens is you're creative and you get this wild hair and then you add something a little different and then everybody gets butthurt because they're like, oh, Mataris doesn't keep his word. He changed it, right?
Okay.
So.
I mean.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool.
He's all butthurt now.
I mean, I don't know. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Like, take what creators say with a grain of salt, because
they're really manic
manic creative. We gotta sell our product, man. We can't give the whole story away in the advertisements, despite what Marvel used to think.
Anyway,
what was I gonna say? So yeah. So not gonna be including any of the like side campaign stuff. But there'll still be plenty to go through. Like I think one of the reasons I came up with the idea for this was because I felt like I played the Pokemon Conquest game, and from there I kind of got interested in the Fire Emblem series.
Yeah.
And I kind of like my tastes grew from there. So I kind of wanted to come back to this in the sense of like, what if the series had grown with the. Because, Pokemon's been going on for so long that, it's grown up with the audience in a sense, right?
I think it'll be also interesting to watch you write something that's this genre again. Because your first fan fiction was a Fire Emblem.
It was a Fire Emblem story, yep. Like, I kind of wanted to be like, what would it look like if, Pokemon Conquest was designed for people, like, in our age bracket, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what ended up happening was, so I started writing this out, and I started planning this out, and I started writing it. I realized it was going to be the most entertaining, at least to me, as a political drama, which, I've never done anything of the sort. Like, I do, all right, bad guys are bad guys, and good guys go punch them.
Like, this is a lot different from your typical...
Yeah, like... one of the reasons the Aragon series I like so much is because they get in it's like it's very clearly defined from the beginning. Galbatorix is the bad guy. The Empire is the bad guys. We got to go take out the bad guys.
The more you get into
it. But the more you get into it, the more you start questioning. The good guys have to start questioning, okay, like, what we're doing to take out the bad guys, are we becoming more like them than it's worth? Like, the alliances they have to make, the steps they have to take to ensure their own survival. It's like by the end of it, are we going to be any better than the guys that we set out to destroy?
Yep. And
one of the things I love is that, like, spoiler alert for the inheritance cycle, but the books have been out for a while, so Galbatorix even throws that in Aragon's face. He's like, you come here to kill me and kill all my men, and you act like you're better than me, like you're more righteous or more holy than me. Who do you think you are?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, it makes sense that he asks the question, like. And that it resonates with Aragon, because he's asked himself the same thing to get where he's at.
War. It's and I think it's timely because there's a lot of
stuff going on right now.
Rough stuff going on in the world, and so, on one hand you have this quote unquote righteous war being waged, but is it? But is it?
Yeah, but is it?
Is war ever righteous? So it's just, lots of interesting, deep ethical questions happening, but also some fun character development too. And so,
it's, like, again, I started planning this years ago.
Like, so the timing just kind of worked out this way.
Yeah. It's not meant to be a political statement in and of itself by any means. Just, this is the way the timing for the story worked out.
Yep, and I think the timing was...
I think it's fortuitous.
Yeah,
I think it was meant to be.
So anyway,
do that what you will. So here's to exploring something new for you guys and for me, because again, like I said, I've for years now have been writing stories where it's very black and white. The good guys are the good guys, the bad guys are the bad guys. There's very little gray in between. This is going to be a little bit of an experiment on mine in trying to have these characters understand the gray areas that fall in between.
Yeah.
It's where do you act? It's like you say you. I think the thing that's going to be explored a lot in this story is the good guys are going to draw. They say they're going to draw the line here.
But are they really?
But it's like, but where did the line actually get drawn? So. All right. Yeah.
Well, that took a really intense turn. But that being said,
I hope you guys enjoyed the story. We will be back after the audio, the dramatic reading done by me, and we're actually going to be joined for the retrospect. But we're actually going to be joined by some of you guys. So we'll talk more about that either later on with the other guys or in the next podcast. So enjoy.
Warlord. It must be done. Keihatsu's mouth set in a grim line as he heard these words come from Tsunahisa, his oldest and most accomplished advisor. The man was stooped with age, but still managed to carry himself elegantly, dressed in robes of green and brown that somehow complemented his lengthy snow-white beard. Seeing the displeased look on his master's face, he gave a respectful bow, accompanied by the words, "Forgive my rudeness, lord, but there is little choice in the matter." As he straightened, he continued, "If you are to stand strong in the face of the public, you cannot avoid taking a wife to serve at your side. The people are looking to you for a firm guiding hand, and if history has shown us anything, it is that those who cannot govern a household of children and their spouse are doomed to fail as leaders." "You go too far with your insolence," another man shouted, this one dressed in a warrior's armor of gray and silver trim. "Simply because you have advised the last two warlords does not give you the right to—" "Peace, Takanobu," their master commanded firmly. When both of them, along with another experienced warrior named Naoshige, turned to look at him directly, the young man said, "His concerns are valid, and I am not interested in a sugar-coated version of the truth. I welcome his frankness." The issues that the four men had gathered to discuss entailed the future of the kingdom that the advisors served, and Keihatsu now ruled as of only a few weeks ago. The land of Aurora had suffered hostilities from a neighboring country since the death of its previous warlord, and the new ruler felt that it was time that something be done to assuage the concerns of his frightened citizens. However, as it so often does, what started as a potential war council had quickly turned into a game of politics, much to Keihatsu's annoyance, though he did his best not to let it show. "Then you agree with Tsunahisa?" Naoshige inquired. "Will you take a wife from the women of your kingdom?" Of the 3 warriors that served as advisors to the warlord of the land called Aurora, he spoke the least, and when he did, his powerful voice held sway over the other 2 men. No, not at all, Keihatsu said, holding up a hand to forestall any protests from Tsunehisa. I will not bind a woman in marriage to me if it is not her heart's desire, and I will certainly not do it merely for the sake of my public image. Then how are we to present a sense of security to those watching your movements? Tsunehisa asked as he wrung his hands. Besides, I hardly think that you will be able to find a lady in Aurora that wouldn't be willing to marry you, my lord. You are quite the catch. He wasn't exactly wrong. Keihatsu was a young warrior, strong of body and keen of mind. His sapphire blue eyes were entrancing to look into, and a kind face framed them, complete with a small nose and soft brown hair above his slender eyebrows. Many ladies of his kingdom found him pleasing to look at, even if from a distance. A faint smile touched Keihatsu's lips as he replied, You flatter me, old man, but my decision remains unchanged. Besides, I hardly think that a wedding will see to the security of our borders. Then how should we respond to the provocations of Lord Hideyoshi? Takanobu inquired. This is the 4th time since you took the throne that he has sent warriors to skirmish with our border patrols. He was speaking of a country in the north of their nation, a place of fire and lava fields that had been causing the new Lord of Aurora several headaches in the last 2 months. Are the defenses holding? Keihatsu asked, drumming his fingers on the arm of his seat. He had directed the question to Naoshige, who now re-examined a scroll he had been holding on to. For now, my lord, he answered at length before lowering the parchment, but too many men were wounded in the last encounter. I do not know that we could repel another attack without reinforcements. Then we shall reinforce them, Keihatsu said, startling his council. My lord, surely you don't mean you wanted me to present a strong image to the public, the young man said as he stood up from his seat, his eyes flashing with fierce light. What stronger picture could I paint for my subjects than that of a leader willing to risk his own safety on their behalf? My lord, forgive my impertinence, but I must protest this, Takanobu said quickly. Please, allow my men and I to repel those Ignisian dogs. Keihatsu clicked his tongue with disapproval before saying, I will forgive impertinence, but not slanders against our fellow man. Mind your tongue if you wish for me to pay heed to the words that spill from it. Takanobu reddened slightly, but he gave his lord a deep bow before saying, Yes, my lord, my sincerest apologies. His master nodded in acceptance of the words before turning to Naoshige, who, like his fellow advisors, appeared troubled. I see something on your mind, he said. Speak it. I admire your determination to help our people in so noble a fashion, the experienced warrior began. However, I urge you to reconsider. Sir Takanobu is more than capable of handling this, and such a maneuver would not put your safety at risk. Aurora has lost her last warlord too soon. Imagine what would happen if you were to perish without an heir to your throne. The young leader frowned slightly at their advisor's words, but he could see the reasoning behind them, much as he disliked it. However, I have trained my entire life to battle. No one in this kingdom, not even the 3 of you standing before me, have been able to best me and my partner in combat, he asserted. I can handle a few ruffians. If it will ease your concerns, Takanobu may accompany me into battle, along with his warriors. You will not change your stance on this? Tsunehisa asked warily, aware of his leader's stubborn nature. I do not think that Lord Avoki would have approved this. As we are all aware, my father is not here to make these decisions, as much as I wish he were. Keihatsu replied, suddenly appearing wary, and causing his subordinate to immediately regret his words. However, the warlord straightened himself and declared, I am here, though, and as warlord I am ordering you to abide by my decision, even if you do not like it. Takanobu, we will leave at first light tomorrow. Tsunehisa, I will leave you as acting steward while Naoshige sees to it that our city has enough warriors to defend it, should we be unable to repel the next attack at the border. He saw the looks of defeat flicker across his men's faces, but they all touched their fists to their hearts and said in unison, As you decree, Lord Keihatsu. Gentlemen, you are dismissed. Keihatsu let out a long sigh as he sat in the soft grass of the royal gardens, smiling as he felt the familiar bundle of soft fur settle into his lap. Hello, Eevee, he said as he patted his Pokémon on his sandy gray-colored head, rubbing the spot between its ears, causing it to close its eyes in bliss as he massaged his head. I've had a most interesting afternoon. The Pokémon was actually a different color to the usual brown and tan fur patterns that one could normally find on the rare creature, and his lighter shade of hair had made him a source of endless fascination for a younger Keihatsu. He and Eevee were linked to one another, sharing in a bond that connected their hearts and minds so much so they could communicate wordlessly. It came in handy during during battle against other warriors, but Keihatsu enjoyed the closeness that it granted him with his partner. He often felt as though his Pokémon was his closest friend, and the only one that truly understood the struggles that he now faced as the new warlord of Aurora. His advisors were good men, but ever since taking the throne, Keihatsu had not had the time or energy to invest in his old friendships like he used to, even with the other members of the noble houses. Moments of quiet peace like this were hard to come by, and he relished in the opportunity to relax with his partner. Through his psychic link with the little creature, he could sense its curiosity, so he elaborated by saying, "Oh, Tsunehisa wanted me to get married in order to present the public with an image of a strong, capable leader. Something to do with a history lesson about rulers that don't have a good handle on their household not making good leaders." He smiled as he felt Eevee's irritation at the thought of having to share his lifelong partner with someone else, but he soothed the animal's injured feelings with another pat on his head and the words, "Don't worry, my friend. I told him it wouldn't be happening. Much to his irritation, I might add." He knew that if Eevee were capable of doing so, he would have laughed then. They are right about needing to give the citizens something positive to consider, though, especially since I inherited the throne from father instead of winning it in combat like the other warlords of Ransei. Many of them doubt my ability to protect them, especially with all the fighting at the border. So, we're going to head to the north and teach the next set of soldiers that come from Ignis a few manners. From Eevee, he sensed a mix of worry and excitement, which prompted him to say, "Me too. It's been some time since we've had a chance to battle, but I'll be glad when it's over." Keihatsu closed his eyes and breathed in deeply, enjoying the fresh breeze and the warmth of the setting sun. Still, it'd be nice to get out of the palace, even if just for a few days. Eevee made a small grunt of agreement before turning its head to indicate that he wanted a scratch on his chin. With another smile, Keihatsu obliged. Here's to hoping my confidence doesn't turn out to be hubris. Later that afternoon, he took to his normal routine, sharing in an early dinner with his advisors and other members of the noble houses of Aurora, followed by a brief meditation session with Eevee. The sun had nearly set when he approached the main gates of his castle, 4 warriors and their Pokémon ready and waiting to accompany him on his daily excursion into the evening marketplace. 2 of them were nearly as young and fresh-faced as he was, but he had known 2 of them in passing growing up, and more importantly, knew of their talents on the battlefield. As such, he trusted them when they vouched for his other guards and their ability to keep him and Eevee safe in the unlikely event of an attack. The visits into the public had been a long-standing habit of his father, who had said that it did a leader good to be among the people that he was sworn to serve and protect, even if only for an hour or so each day. It helped them relate to one another by interacting directly with each other, and the old warlord had not missed a single stroll while he stayed in the city, even when the sickness that had claimed his life began to eat away at his health. Keihatsu's advisors had tried to object to his continuing the tradition, for fear of Ignis' ambitions of conquering their lands either by kidnapping him or worse, trying to kill him. He had refused to cave into their worries, however, though Tsunehisa had insisted on providing him with an escort made up of his best and brightest soldiers. "We stand ready, my lord," said one of them, a man named Munizane, his starly warbling happily from his shoulders as it greeted Keihatsu's Eevee. Like him and every other warrior on the continent of Ransei, Keihatsu's men shared in psychic links with their Pokémon, though he could not boast to have one so strong as their master and his partner. "Very good," the warlord said as he squared his shoulders. "Let's get a move on then." The gates to his palace swung open, allowing them passage out into the main road that ran through into the heart of the city. Already he could hear the noises of the commoners going about their day-to-day life coming from the marketplace, and he smiled to himself, eager to meet his subjects. Some he would not know, while others he would greet by name, after having met them a few times before. "A fine evening for a stroll, my lord," said another one of his soldiers. "I can see why you so enjoy the chance to stretch your legs." His Pokémon, Rufflet, squawked in agreement from the perch on its shoulder as he looked up at a clear sky carrying a cool breeze to stave off the last remnants of the early springtime warmth. Unlike what he had been told of other warlords from other nations, Keihatsu did not forbid his men from speaking to him in so candid a manner. They still addressed him with the title and respect that he deserved as he was their master, but they did not fear the strike of a whip or blade for speaking their minds. "I agree. Then you may be saying something quite different when you are standing with me in the snow come winter," Keihatsu said in response to his guard's statement, eliciting a round of chuckles from each of them. As they spoke, they began to pass by a few people in the street, all of them stopping to bow when they noticed the golden headpiece upon his brow. Some of them called a respectful greeting, which he responded to with a smile and a wave of his hand. "My lord, might I ask a question?" Munizane inquired as Keihatsu waved at an elderly couple who wore smiles on their weathered faces. "You just did, but I'll answer another if you have it." Keihatsu grinned while they continued to walk in place. the number of people growing around them as they continued to draw closer to the marketplace. "Is there a plan to deal with the ambitions of Lord Hideyoshi?" the warrior asked, though not so loud that any passerbys would be able to hear them. "My brother and his Bidoof were seriously injured in the last encounter with Ignis's forces, and I worry that he will not survive another battle." Kaihatsu's face grew serious as he replied, "There is a plan, Minazain. Though I'll not discuss the details in so public a place, know that I will not allow your brother to come to further harm." "Yes, my lord," the guard replied. "Thank you for suffering my questions, my lord." By now, the number of people were thick enough that they were having to separate to make their way for the warlord and his retinue. Again, many of them showed Kaihatsu respect in their greetings to him, with deep bows and well wishes for his health. Those that did not merely bowed the minimal depth owed to their ruler before continuing on their way. Kaihatsu did not address them for their barely contained lack of respect for him, however. He knew that he needed to earn their trust before he could be expected to be treated with proper deference, though he was glad to see that they still harbored respect for the crown, if nothing else. "You've left quite the role to fill, father," he thought with a wry smile. The last warlord had governed his people with gentility for over 30 years, but his fists were as iron when anyone dared to threaten the people of his kingdom. Though Kaihatsu had not gotten to spend much time with the man himself growing up, instead being raised by his tutors, he had grown up with a deep respect for him and the ideals that governed his ruling. It had been a terrible blow to Kaihatsu when his father succumbed to an illness of the stomach, but he had taken very little time to mourn the fact. In order to still the ambitions of any other noble houses, he had assumed the throne immediately after his father's funeral. Only one house, the Hall of Kakemono, had dared to challenge him for the right to become ruler. Their clan's symbol was that of the Pokémon Linun, which the older warrior had fought alongside against Kaihatsu and his Eevee. It had been a fierce battle, but very one-sided in favor of the new warlord, thanks in no small part to his ability to enhance his bonded partner's speed beyond the normal levels of what was expected, even of a rare Pokémon like Eevee. After that, the noble houses had accepted his leadership without further question. Now he was left with the matter of winning the respect of those who still doubted him among the common folk. By this time, his retinue had reached the large plaza that served as the central area of trade and commerce for his kingdom, which was still swarming with people and Pokémon, despite the setting sun. As he looked around, his heart lightened, seeing so many of his subjects and their partners going about them, enjoying their lives and the peace that their father had worked so hard to provide. Aurora featured a climate that attracted mostly normal-type Pokémon, which he knew many other kingdoms looked down on because of their glaring lack of type advantages, made worse by their critical weakness to the overpowering fighting types found in the region north of Ignis. But Kaihatsu loved them anyway, because they were his subjects, and it was his duty to look after and cherish them, regardless of their potential to succeed or not. Seeing the market stall of a fruit vendor that he favored, he informed his guards of a change in direction, and they adjusted their march to accommodate his wish. When he reached the stall, the guards in front of him moved aside to let him through and greet the young woman who ran it. "Lady Hatsu, you look well," he said as she bowed deeply from behind a stall full of plums, apples, iokun, and other various delights. "Your stock also appears to be in good health. Another plentiful haul this early in the season?" "Yes, Lord Kaihatsu, my relatives from Greenleaf helped me to grow them," she answered. "Without them, I doubt my father would have much luck as a farmhand." Her partner, Igglybuff, chirped a greeting before resuming its lookout duty, ready to alert its master to any thieves trying to nick their wares. Kaihatsu nodded, searching his memory for a moment before asking, "How is Matsuda getting along? It's been a few weeks since I saw him at the stall." "He's been having some trouble with a group of Buneri that keep eating our persimmon," Hatsu answered, sounding a little exasperated. "Mother keeps trying to link with one in the hopes of making peace with the pack, but sadly she does not possess the talent to do so." Kaihatsu mused, another thought struggling to be recalled. Then he had it and he clicked his fingers as he said, "There's a lady in my service, one of the cooks. Her son has recently managed to form a bond with a Rattata. He lacks formal training as of yet, but I'd be willing to wager that he would be delighted to help you and your family fight off the Buneri so that he might begin to understand what such a link entails." Hatsu appeared to mull it over for a bit before she replied hesitantly, "My lord, your offer is most generous, but I do not know that my father would be comfortable allowing an untested boy to fight on our property, not to mention that he is a complete stranger." Kaihatsu nodded quickly. Her concern was a valid one, but he already had a solution in mind. "Please assure your father that I will cover any damages that the boy causes from my own purse, and I will see to him receiving proper instruction as soon as possible," he told her. "I wish that I could send someone more experienced to assist your family, but at the moment my warriors are stretched a little thin." Hatsu pondered this for a moment, then said, "Very well, my lord. I will inform my father of your proposal this evening, and please forgive my lack of gratitude. After all, you owe us nothing." "Nonsense," he insisted. I serve the people as they serve me. That's only fair. Thank you, Lord Kaotsu, she said with another bow. Your generosity is a welcome boon in these dark times. Her last words caused his smile to wilt a little, but he recovered quickly to say, If you only look for the darkness, it is all you will see, Lady Hatsu. Seek the things that bring light into your home if you wish for the good times to return. At this, she smiled back and said, Please, my lord, take a piece of your choosing. It is only right, seeing as you have wasted time on the petty concerns of a lowborn like me. Again, nonsense, the young man said as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a gold coin. Please, accept this in exchange for 5 pieces of your merchandise for myself and my men, in addition to the conversation we have shared. I shall not take time away from other customers, especially with not food so fine as this. You humble me, my lord, Hatsu replied gratefully as she accepted the coin. Thank you once more for your generosity. They spent another hour wandering the marketplace, speaking to many of the citizens from their country, as well as a handful of people visiting from the kingdoms of Greenleaf and Fontaine, 2 realms that held good relations with Aurora. Those that came from out of the country seemed surprised to meet the new ruler that they had heard about in person, and in a public place no less. At one point, Kaotsu was approached by a middle-aged beggar, who his men tried to remove from his presence, but he stopped them. He did not give the man money, but he did tell him to see one of his squadron leaders on the eastern wall of the city about a job, as he did not appear to be in poor health, merely hungry and dirty. All the while, he kept up his smile and welcoming gestures to his subjects, never once letting them see the turmoil that plagued his thoughts with worry. Many would have found the task to be monumentally exhausting, but he quite liked getting to spend time among those that were more down to earth, as opposed to some of the, quite frankly, stuck-up and airheaded nobles that he had just spent supper with. These were the people upon whose backs their nation was dependent. That fact to him alone made this common-born citizens far more worthy of the time he chose to invest in their presence, as opposed to extra idle hours spent over fineries and being forced to listen to the faux compliments and unashamed attempts by the nobility to endear themselves to him with offered banquets in their own halls, or yet another opportunistic marriage proposal from more than one father, eager to place their daughters in what they saw as a vacant seat of power. It wound up being that the moon was well above the city walls when he decided it was time they all returned to the palace. After all, he would have a long few days' journey ahead of him, starting in the morning. He had just finished speaking to a small child with her little Pidgey when he managed to bump into a young woman as he turned a corner, sending her falling on her rear with a startled yelp. Munezane was immediately standing over her with a stern glare as Kaotsu recovered his balance, Evie curiously peeking at the newcomer from behind his legs. "Watch your step, girl!" the warrior barked, causing the girl to flinch and cover her face in fright where she sat on the road. "You are in the presence of Lord Kaotsu, protector of this realm, and I am very much capable of making my own introductions, Munezane," his master said as he grasped his shoulder to move him aside. "Leave her be." "But my lord, she is a passerby with a case of bad luck," Kaotsu finished for him with a look that discouraged any further arguments. Returning his gaze to the girl he had run into, he extended a hand and said, "Come now, miss, let me help you up." When his guards went to protest, he waved them back with a word and a gesture, causing them to stand a couple of feet back with a uniformly grim expression on their faces, while their Pokémon took to the air and rooftops around them, acting as lookouts that would alert them to any potential trouble before it arrived. Only Eevee remained, refusing to leave his master's side while they both took stock of the stranger. As she lowered her hands, the young warlord took a moment to study the girl's appearance. She was dressed in a dirty black kimono sporting blue shoulder fabric and a matching sash at her waist. Her feet were bare, and she looked just as travel-stained as her clothing. The skin on her face was pale, speaking to a life spent mostly indoors. As she hesitantly took his hand, allowing him to lift her up, he was struck by how pretty she actually was, despite the dirt and other marks of traveling on her person. Her face was round with delicate lips set under a cute little nose and a pair of magenta eyes. Her brown hair was streaked with periwinkle highlights, and long enough that he guessed it had been about 5 years since she had given it anything more than a trim. He released her hand when she appeared stable, and she drew a pace away from him before bowing deeply from the waist, remaining in that position as she said in a trembling voice, "My deepest apologies, Lord. I accept any punishment that you see fit to deliver for my transgression." Kaotsu was scandalized by the idea, so much so that Eevee flattened his ears and gazed up at the girl with something akin to sympathy. The young man reached out again, this time to grip her arm as he said, "I'll not punish you for a simple chance of poor luck." He exerted a little pressure on the limb, drawing her upward again as he added, "Come then, that's it." She resisted his touch initially, but after a moment she allowed herself to rise up, her back completely straight, despite the fact that she kept her face lowered and her eyes averted from his. Not understanding her reluctance, the young man asked, "Are you all right, miss? You seem frightened." "It is not permissible for one to look into the eyes of a warlord unless they be of equal strength," she answered, sounding as though she were reciting it from memory. Not in Aurora, Keihatsu insisted when his men looked around, reassuring themselves that they were not about to be the victims of an ambush. Please, miss. May I have your name and the face to match with it? I am Oichi, she answered softly while her head began to rise ever so slowly. I am sorry that I have interrupted your dealings, Lord Keihatsu. I was on a bit of a stroll, nothing important, he said with a smile as she finally looked directly at him. Tell me, Miss Oichi, have you traveled from afar? Yes, my lord, she answered, her voice still timid and trembling. I am from the northern reaches of Ransei. I sought to escape the conflict that seeks to engulf the kingdoms there. A likely story, one of the other soldiers scoffed. Quiet, Keihatsu ordered him, silencing the man instantly. To Oichi, he said, I had heard whispers of a conflict near Dragnor and Spectra, but nothing concrete. Is it truly so dire in those lands? It is worse, my lord, Oichi replied. When I had left, Dragnor had launched attacks against Spectra, having achieved an alliance with Nixstorm. But I know not what the situation is now, as it has been nearly a year since I left home. I fear greatly for those that chose to stay. She shuddered and wrapped her arms around herself, as if one of the blizzards from Nixstorm still howled about her. Since when was Lord Nobunaga so ambitious? Munizane inquired of no one in particular. He was speaking of the powerful warlord that commanded a mountainous region in Ransei, home to many of the fierce dragon-type Pokémon. I'd heard tales of his strength and ferocity in battle, but I never expected him to attack other kingdoms. It's too bold, too much like Lord Hideyoshi. Unlike the Lord of Ignis, Nobunaga has been planning his campaign for years, Oichi informed them, drawing a curious gaze out of Keihatsu. He has the resources and the cunning to carry out a war that will engulf not only the northern reaches of Ransei, but that of the whole continent. He means to conquer all 17 kingdoms? Keihatsu asked, a slight chill running down his spine as he struggled to grasp the enormity of such a task, and the ambition that must drive the man seeking to accomplish it. Why? He would be courting disaster everywhere he went, inciting rebellions, assassination attempts, not to mention the ruination of the land he conquers. What does he stand to gain from such a terrible accomplishment? Oichi's eyes clouded with pain as she lowered her gaze and answered, Rumors abound that he seeks the legend of Ransei. The legend of... Keihatsu paused, remembering the story that his mother had told him when he was a child, about how if a single warlord was strong enough to unite the kingdoms of Ransei under a single banner, the Pokemon that created the continent would appear before them in order to grant the conqueror a wish. Just to be certain, he asked, The Alpha Pokemon? Oichi nodded once in confirmation, eliciting a round of raucous laughter from Keihatsu's warriors, and causing her face to fall from behind a veil of her hair again. Now we know this girl spins nothing but tall tales, Munizane chortled. The legend of Ransei is nothing more than that, a story. You disregard the main point, Keihatsu said firmly, stilling his men's merriment. Turning around to face them, he elaborated. Nobunaga already allegedly believes that the myth is fact. Regardless of whether it is truth or not, he will apparently butcher half of Ransei in pursuit of it. My lord, with all due respect, we have only the word of this girl to go off of, said the fourth guard in his retinue. Surely we would do better to jump at our own shadows? I speak truthfully, Oichi insisted, though her eyes did not rise. In the end, it does not matter. I can only delay the end that Nobunaga's reign will bring by getting as far to the south as I can. Even then, it is only a matter of time before all the lands in Ransei will be flying the flags of Dragnor. At the last, her eyes rose again to meet the ruler of Aurora's searching gaze. Keihatsu examined the girl's face and bearing for any signs that she was lying. As a young noble, he had been taught by both his teachers and circumstance to quickly ascertain whether people were telling falsehoods in his presence. Those that did lie would often be unable to hold a person's gaze for any length of time, or they would blink an unnecessary amount. Others would shift in place as if standing still made them uncomfortable, and some would readjust their clothes instead of paying close attention to what was going on about them. Oichi was doing none of these things now, and even if she had been avoiding his gaze before, he felt it was due to a genuine fear of his status as a warlord. Poor thing has probably lived under the fear, if not the rule, of Nobunaga for much of her life. No wonder she was afraid of me when they told her that I'm the warlord, he thought with a measure of sympathy. His opinion on her was solidified when Evie sniffed at her from behind Keihatsu, and he sensed a positive vibe from his trusted partner. At long last, he spoke his decree on this new matter. Dragnor and its neighbors are too far away for us to do anything about them, regardless of whether or not this lady speaks truthfully, he said to his men. Personally, I do believe her, but that is neither here nor there. We have more pressing concerns at our own borders, and here at this late hour. Men, we will be escorting Miss Oichi to my palace, where she will be provided with a new set of clothes, a warm meal, and a place to spend the evening in safety. Of course, his men were scandalized by the idea, and Munuzane was quick to vocalize their objections by saying, "My lord, for all we know, she could be an assassin from Ignis sent to take your life. We cannot ignore such a grievous breach in our defenses." Here, Keihatsu drew himself up to his full height, which, due to his youth, was not a considerable amount, and said with a dangerous gleam in his eyes, "Bite your tongue, soldier, unless you wish to be demoted to cleaning privy stalls. I am your lord and commander, and as such my word is law when it comes to you receiving my instructions. Do not presume to tell me what I can and cannot do. Am I clear?" Throughout this delivery, the young man did not shout, but in his bearing was a power and authority that can come only from those truly meant to lead others, and Munuzane quickly shrank back from the force of it. Dropping to one knee before his master, he said, "Forgive my outburst, lord. I meant no disrespect, only to see to your safety. But as you say, speak and it shall be done." "Very good." Keihatsu nodded, his cadence back to more his relaxed self. "My lord, I cannot impose on your hospitality, especially given the concerns of your men," Oichi said with a small bow. "They are valid thoughts given the situation of your kingdom. Also, I understand that you are unwed, and I do not like to think of what people might surmise if I were to be seen accompanying you into your home." A faint blush colored her face as she straightened, but she held his gaze evenly enough once more. Keihatsu laughed then and extended his arm out to her so that she might loop hers through. "Let people gossip as they choose," he said to the surprised girl. "Whether you accompany me home tonight or not, I know for a fact that there are members of staff that say I'm spending my nights with half the maids in the palace." "Are you?" Oichi asked, the corners of her lips quirking upwards for a second. "No," he answered with another grin. "Are you mad? I can barely make time for these evening outings, let alone manage a potential scandal of those kinds of proportions. Now come, be my guest. As the ruler of Aurora, I insist. I will not leave you in these streets when it is clear that you've not had a proper meal or shelter in some time. I would ask if there was a punishment should I choose to decline, but it has already been made apparent to me that you are a very different man to the warlords of the north." Oichi said as she slowly threaded her arm through his, her movements still hesitant, as if afraid that she would be struck at any moment. "Very well, if you insist. I will accompany you to your castle, Lord Keihatsu." "That's the spirit," he said cheerfully. To his men he ordered, "Form up and escort us home, please." "As you command, Lord Keihatsu." As they began to resume their walk toward the palace, the young warlord thought to himself, being in charge certainly has its moments, and it was not lost on him that Evie was looking up at Oichi with excited eyes the whole way home.
All right.
So I think we've got technical difficulties out of the way. Like something happened. Like I don't know what happened.
I think we had a power surge because the TV randomly turned on and all this.
Like
yeah.
when the microphone cut out. Like so, my computer was fine, but for whatever reason, the audio equipment got messed with.
So.
Well, listen, it's because I'm sick. My power is overflowing, so it might have just like spilled over a little
all right.
bit.
Can you like dial back on that?
I'll try to hold it back.
Poor Robin. Hold on.
Oofda.
What happened? Did he like overdose on the memes? Is that why he's sick?
One does not simply overdose on memes.
I mean, tell it to Luke Skywalker about the Force.
Well, there's a difference between overdosing on the Force and overdosing on memes.
Is there though?
There is. There truly is. With the memes, you don't vanish into you don't become one with the living Force. With memes, you become the meme itself.
Okay, Robin, I gotta
take myself for it.
Robin, I gotta ask real quick: is there a substantial difference between Bloons Tower Defense 6 and 5?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like in the game mode, or is it just like the variety of towers that's available? For anybody wondering, I just saw that his.
I see his thing there as well. I never played. I'm not a huge tower defense person, but I do get it. Nice. All right. So should we go ahead and?
All right. Fair enough. We're not here to talk about Bloons Tower Defense.
So
we're here to talk.
I'm not talking about the past.
Wait.
Let's talk about the past.
So you guys, I hear you guys have read the chapter already.
The first one,
yes.
Thoughts?
No, I forgot. Right. No, I'm just kidding. I read it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I didn't even realize that it was 10 pages, and I was trying to even this morning I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and reread this, just like skim over everything, just so I can have some things to say.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry. And here's the thing. Well, first off, let me just get this out of the way. It is very fun to read. I don't know if it's
So,
just
okay.
because I was feeling burned out from like Your Hero Academia and all that, or with how long it was, but this was genuinely really, really fun to read. And I went in knowing what it was. Okay, it's going to be like more of a political thing more than a shonen. It's going to be, it's going to have Pokemon because I love Pokemon. Freaking love Pokemon, in case you didn't know.
Yep.
Just want to get just in the odd chance
just in case the audience didn't know that already.
Just in case that the audience didn't know. And it was very fun to read. And like I have the thing open right here just so I can skim through and go through all that. But with that being said, maybe it's just because it's the inherent nature of it being a first chapter, but there's nothing really I can review upon in the sense of like, okay, this is setting up the character of, I don't even remember, like I can never remember Japanese names. Like because like even with the Kaguya-sama Love is War character, it's like, wait, who is that? But anyways, the point is like what is his name? Keihatsu. Okay.
Keihatsu, yep.
I'm going to forget everyone's name here. I'm just like in the story because I'm stuck with Japanese names.
Okay. You're gonna forget my name?
I always forget your name. I'm good, but thanks.
Yeah, get over it, Ronan.
You really just turned out a hot dog?
Sorry, yeah, that was my my family. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, but anyways, with all of that being said, it was very fun to like see like his character, even like his three advisors. You have I don't know. I don't want to like go into like too much of a tangent of like just like summarizing the story because that's not why I wanted to do this. But it was fun. It was fun to read, and like even like with him going out and talking with all the people, like, oh hey, I'm not summarizing the story, but it was just there's not really a whole lot for me to ultimately.
Just for context,
say.
So you're familiar with the format of the podcast by now, right? We do the reviews, we do the audio chapter, and then we do the retrospect.
Yeah, then you do
basically this is replacing the retrospect section. Like we're going to be covering like what went on in the chapter, like why I did certain things, but we're trying to do that with you guys to try and get an outsider's perspective on it.
Okay, you want an outsider's perspective?
All right.
No.
Man, I certainly wish that I was a ruling lord so that I could just have some girl run into me and then I could say like, "Hey, do you want to come and hang out at my place?" And then she's legally obligated to come and do that.
That came out.
That came out wrong. I apologize. That came out. Oh my gosh.
What was I gonna say? Like, is that like not technically what happened in the first like the prologue of the game though?
Well.
Like, you basically bump into her in the street, and she's just like, hey, I'm gonna help you fight these guys off.
I don't even know if you bump into her in the streets. I think you just kind of...
You literally run into her in the street, along with, like, those three other warrior guys that are kind of weird. They kind of come in and out of the story.
Yeah, I don't... It's been so... Like, I literally just, like, because I had to go and re-download all of it because I got a new PC. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna, like, try and redo... Wait, I have to redo the entirety of things. I can't do the fun stories, and I have to go through freaking Nobunaga's garbage castle. But anyway. for those of you who don't know, the final boss of what this game is based on, Pokemon Conquest, his map is absolute garbage, and the map itself will kill you.
So just for you, Silver, you know what I'm gonna do when they get to this map is
what are you going to do?
Not only am I gonna set up like all the trap towers and everything that change elements randomly, I'm gonna have them all connected by bridges.
Bye. He left. He hung up.
He quit. All right, Silver quit.
You are a monster. You are a monster.
Oh man. Nice.
For context, I know that we're like not talking about the chapter, but just have to get this out of the way.
Yep.
Mataris, basically everyone else on the server loves Naruto, and I'm like, okay, I will give Naruto a try. I'll watch the anime because it seems genuinely really cool. And so I'm watching it, and I get to like the first main arc, and I'm like 10, 15 episodes in. They will not leave this stupid arc where it's like, oh, hey, this bridge builder needs to be protected so we can build a bridge, get to build commerce or whatever it is. I forget. And it's so long. It's so bad.
You're not wrong. It was unnecessary.
Yeah.
It was
Joe, to be fair, Joe skipped that whole arc with me. When I watched the show, Joe just skipped that entire arc with me. I didn't watch it until the second watch through.
Yeah, so I have, oh my gosh. But anyways, that's the funny thing. But anyways,
I can see like skipping some episodes, but the whole arc, it's kind of important. Like,
because
is it though?
No. Is it like really? The first episode of season 2, they literally summarize everything that happened in season 1.
Yeah, and he knew I was iffy about watching it to begin with, but he's like, I want to get to the good part, so she'll get into it. And
so I just started her off with like the Forest of Death.
Wow.
And then I got really into it after that. So
nice. Maybe I'll skip the bridge section. I don't know. But anyways, going back to the story. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
With Oichi just showing up. Yeah, that's right. With Oichi, so I'm gonna be replaying that game. But yeah, I guess that is how it happens. But anyways, with that being said, like,
oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I did really like your like kind of conversation because there was definitely like, well, again, I said it was fun to read, but I did like how like, oh hey, you have this brand new warlord who's like a man of the people and basically just a person who's what's a good comparison? What's her name from Fire Emblem Awakening? I don't even remember her name. The lady who dies.
The one who died. Oh, Emran.
Emran, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a lot. I don't think like I didn't go out of my way to model Keihatsu after her, but like when I was trying to think of rulers who like try to be there for their people, she was definitely one of the people that came to mind.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, it's not a one-to-one, obviously, because that's something that.
Like, in terms of him conducting himself like a warrior, I think we're gonna see some like kind of Aragorn tendencies come out.
Interesting.
Like way, not necessarily in the way that he himself fights, but in the way that he like speaks to the people around him.
Hey guys, did you know that in this one chapter, when he kicks this helmet and he breaks his toe, that's actually a reference to the Lord of the Rings.
Everybody knows that at this point.
That's the running gag.
But yeah, no, I do like that comparison of like you have him who's like kind of chill, and then you have Oichi, she's the one name that I can remember, ironically enough, who's like, oh man, I was with these other warlords who are like top tier warlords who are like super strict, or however I can't. It's early in the morning. I can't. Thank you. And she's like, oh man, forgive me. And he's like, no. And then you have this kind of like contrast, and I do really like that. So and I do like Oichi as a character, and that's one thing I loved in the original games.
It was really hard to figure out a way to like compare him to other rulers in the kingdoms when I don't like have firsthand access to them. Like I can't show them being them without taking away from what's happening in the opening chapter.
Okay. Well, so let me go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So like I needed to have somebody with a perspective that like had at least interacted with some of them to draw a comparison so that the audience knows, okay, so he may not be quite par for the course when it comes to a ruler.
Sure. Yeah. No, I definitely see that, and I want to see him fail. And that's not like a similar thing with Karai. Like I want to see him die. I want to see him die so bad. But no, that's kind of the thing about like characters. Like, and it's obviously you know this, but I remember like seeing this like one piece of writing advice, like, oh hey, the best piece of writing, have your main characters, and what do they want, and how can I keep them from getting exactly what they want in whatever way possible.
It's interesting that you say that, because so. I had mentioned that I'm going to be releasing like little mini chapters that like people only on the Discord will get to read.
So for this story or for
this
your hero?
For Pokemon Warpath. So the first one of those that I'm going to be releasing is actually like almost related directly to that.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Like setting him up for something that he wants, and then he fails to get it immediately.
Okay, well that's interesting. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, with all of that to said, I did like that last. See, here's the thing: the chapter itself is very well written, but there are a lot of details in it that I can't necessarily review upon, because like it is a political story, and I don't have that issue with I have that issue with Your Hero Not Here, partially because this is a brand new story, but also partially because I know what this story is.
Yeah.
It is inherently political, like in the sense of like the context of the story, not like IRL stuff. But
so one of the biggest differences that I decided to go with right off the bat was that when you meet Oichi in the game, she already has a Jigglypuff partner, right? And she just goes straight into fighting with you. I'm like, given what we learn about her throughout the rest of the game, I'm like, that doesn't like the fact that she was just ready to jump into a battle with you, like that seemed weird to me. So I decided to somewhat like not recharacterize, but essentially redo the circumstances under which she appears, in that she doesn't have a Pokemon partner, and we'll see how she feels about like battles and all that in Pokemon in general.
I never even noticed that she doesn't have a Jigglypuff in this chapter. I never know. Okay.
Well, I think that's the nice thing, because when you're playing the game, you're doing it because you want to do the puzzles, you want to do the the Pokemon battles. But when you're reading a story, you want to get more into that character development, right? And and you care about the story in a game, sure. But with this, especially with Pokemon, you're not there for the game, man. You're there to do cool stuff, right? And so the nice thing with the story is we're able to kind of, take the basic structure of the game, but then lend context to these characters and make them people with feelings, not just little AIs who pop in. I'm gonna help you fight, So
yeah, no, of course, definitely. And that's what I love about just stories in general, and even with Pokemon stories specifically, because that was one of the ways I first got into fan fiction was through Pokemon stories.
Okay.
I'll talk about this after the podcast because I don't want to take up time with meaningless fluff, but that's what I do like about Pokemon stories is that there's just a lot of different avenues to do that with Pokemon itself, and that's one of the things I really love. And even again with this entire first conversation, I forget you don't mention it here in the story, and I remember you mentioned this in the Discord, but with Nobunaga having a Zekrom, you mentioned oh hey yeah, everyone else who hasn't actually seen or met Nobunaga or Zekrom, their reaction to hearing that is just to laugh because that's something that would never happen.
Well, that's to put it in our perspective, that's just the equivalent of someone saying oh yeah, he made buddies with the Archangel and is getting ready to lay waste to the rest of America. Contextually speaking, that's what that is for them. So
I love it, and I love it. I love it. And so with all of that being said, I can sum up basically every single amount of my tangential fluff into I really like this first chapter. It is a good setup. Not a whole lot to review because of the details, but the details aren't necessarily important to a review inherently, but it does work in the context of the story. And I like Oichi. She is a fun character to read, especially. Cool. I don't know why.
Yay.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm having fun with her. I don't write... I don't think I've actually written an actively pacifist character up to now. If I have, they've only been in very briefly.
Rivka.
But she starts throwing hands eventually.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've read your SAO stuff. It's been so long.
But she's somebody who's it's gonna if she does change her pacifism, it's gonna have to take a while. It's not gonna be something. It's not gonna just be something that's oh, it's a 1-2 chapter turnaround. No. This if it does happen, it's gonna have to be a process.
You know what? This isn't me saying, oh hey, you should do it like this. But one thing that does pop into my mind in terms of pacifist characters trying to go, and granted there is a very, very different scale with this, but all I can think of is in the 11th Doctor of Doctor Who, when a good man goes to war, you have the Doctor, and he's he's still all the same, but there's that one scene where he's getting really riled up and getting even
he's
to the point
I'm
where
angry, that's new. I'm really not sure what's gonna happen to you.
So if you wanted to obviously it's a very different scale, but if you wanted to try something different with Oichi, just throwing that out there. I don't know how much of this you have written.
I have.
Can I ask that? How much do you have written? In terms of if I were to translate it to the game.
Sorry, repeat that question.
How if you can, how much of this story do you have written in comparison to the where its placement in what would be the game?
I'm editing. I'm basically editing what is the basically the fire, water, grass kingdom.
Really?
And that's gonna take place over 13 chapters or so.
Okay, so about 2-3 months, hopefully, if I'm lowballing it. That's me lowballing it.
Well, I mean, these are gonna be once a month releases.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because remember, I'm doing this once a month, and I'm doing Your Hero Academia once a month.
Okay, so you switched the schedule again. Okay. Well, okay, yeah. Well, yeah, because you're doing Your Hero alongside that. Yeah.
I'm still doing content release every other week.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a situation where it's hey guys, welcome back to the end of the year of 2024. We're finally finishing up the Grasswater Kingdoms.
We'll see. Maybe I'll release some extra chapters for holidays.
That would be nice.
We'll see.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I realize that I've been taking up all the talking, and I know that you're under the weather, Robin, but was there anything that you wanted to... Do you want me to give you the floor, so to speak?
Sure. So I don't know anything about the game it's based off of. So is your character OC?
Yes and no.
Yeah, like basically the character that you play as in the game has no dialogue at all.
Okay.
So it's kind of fill in the blank. So in terms
So
of
so it's like the main character kind of type.
Yeah. So like in terms of appearance and stuff, definitely not my design, but in terms of characterization, that is me.
Okay. Also, he has a shiny Eevee. Yeah. Because of course.
You know what? Why not? I honestly thought, why not give him a shiny Eevee?
Because if anyone who has a shiny in Pokemon obviously got their shiny Pokemon from like that one website that gives you shiny Pokemon instead of getting it legally.
Wait, there's a website that does that?
There's a website that does everything, Mataris.
There's a lot of like Reddit things you can do.
No, but like
I've done legitimate shiny hunting.
You're talking to the kind of person who would literally turn off his game console, like turn it off and back on 500 times until he got what he wanted. So
I did the joys of shiny hunting. But anyways, yeah, no, I mean, I do. With all jokes aside, I do kind of like. It's interesting because like a lot of people, the reason they do shiny Pokemon is like just because shiny Pokemon are cool and special. It's like, oh man, that makes the main character special as well. But honestly, that's not what it feels like you're going for here. But I do like that kind of detail.
Yeah.
Well, I like how in the culture it's like, oh, that thing might be sickly. It doesn't look normal, instead of it being cool. And so, but he's like, no, I like.
He's like, no. He's like, no. He's fine. He's perfectly healthy. He just
looks a little different.
Yeah. You're not screen capping, are you?
No.
Okay, well here I'm gonna send a. I literally just because I think this is cool and because we're on the subject of shinies. There's like one. This is one of my personal favorite shiny color swaps in Pokemon period. And I just got this last night.
Ooh.
Shiny Metagross.
I have a shiny Metagross in Pokemon Go. I love it.
Yeah.
I have one from
I was trying to say
Forest
something
because
Robin.
if you...
Yeah, because the event Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robin. Go ahead.
Okay. Man, what else am I gonna say?
Metagross?
Well, Metagross is cool, yeah, but like...
I didn't know if that was what you were saying or not, sorry.
Yeah, I'm following the flow of the story so far.
Okay.
We're looking pretty good. I'm interested. I'd say my only, like, thing I want to say is, like, your characters all tend to be, like, the character that's always really good at stuff. Which I get is, like, the game main character, but I don't know. I'm kind of interested in seeing some flaws as we go along.
Okay. I can definitely deliver on that.
Yeah. Because that is another thing that I will agree with Robin on. Like, as much as I do genuinely like you, right, and I've said that time and time again, but there is a common thread of your characters being not necessarily.
They want to be the very best that no one
ever was, so to speak.
I think
to catch them is their real test,
but to train them is their cause.
Yeah. I think my speciality or my flaw, however you want to look at it, is that I like creating characters that are talented or that are capable, sometimes both. But the flaw that the potentially fatal flaw that I prefer to give them is their personality.
I mean, yeah, I can definitely see that.
Like that's what I tend to lean into.
I think you this is kind of your outlet too. I don't want to say that you're living through your characters, but like you're kind of venting through them a little bit.
There's definitely some of that. No.
But I have to say, there is something to be said of having the little guy. Like I think that's why Deku is such a compelling character because he starts out as just not being able to do anything.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like even like in writing, it's always fun to like have a character that's like. Kind of a reflection of what I think you phrased it the best, like a reflection of things that you want to be as well as reflection of things you don't want to be.
Yeah.
But
so basically the way that I'm characterizing Keihatsu is almost every other character that I've written up to now has like been, if they've been born with power, they don't want it, or they have to if they've been born with the power and talent, they didn't want to use it. Essentially, such as the case with Goron and Saiyentail, or they had to work hard. They had to work hard to get it, or to master it, such as the case with Mataris and Kurak. In this one, we have someone who like has all that stuff and was essentially born and like he was born and raised to use all of his he was born with Imperial birthright, and he knows how to use it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like I kind of wanted to. I was like, what if I kind of wanted to have a run with a character where it's like, what if this is someone who knows that they have power and they are not only capable and trained to use it, but willing to do so as well.
I don't know that that's necessarily that different from Kudai, though, because he's, like, in every sense of the word, like, the privileged child. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, he's trauma like everybody else.
Like, if you boil it down that, but, like, Keihatsu did not have to work as hard to get to where he is.
That's true.
Kudai had to work, granted it happens off screen a lot, which probably is one of my biggest mistakes with your heroes. I didn't show his struggle to get where he is enough, at least at the start of the story. That's not that Keihatsu doesn't work hard, it's that he just doesn't have to work as hard to get to where he's at.
By the same token, though, I think where you're going is that you want it to be more of an emotional personality struggle than, like, a physical, means struggle. Because I think
I haven't written a king character before.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's a king, and that's this is going to be a political story by and large.
And wait for this also turn into a capitalistic story.
Sorry, what now?
Can't wait for this to turn into a capitalistic story as well.
I'd say that with the king, like, some struggles you can have are you can have, like, really tough choices, which I'm sure you're gonna make him have as like a leader. I think another thing is just because they're king doesn't mean that they're the greatest fighter, because they can't devote all their time towards being the best fighter. And so like that can make them lose quite a bit.
Okay, sure. So the way this so you haven't played the game, right, Robin?
No.
Okay. So typically the way that it works in this continent is that the strongest person is the ruler of the kingdom. Like if you can go up to the warlord and knock them off their throne, congratulations, you're the new ruler. That's how that works. Gym leader, yeah. Like that's how and I'm definitely trying to go more into the cultural intricacies of like how that's even possible throughout the story.
Because he did inherit the throne as well.
That's another thing that makes him different. That's why some people don't
respect him.
That's why a number of people don't respect him the same way, is because he didn't win the throne. It was essentially handed to him.
And so
I do really like that. I never mentioned that, but that is
probably going to have any number of challengers.
Mm-hmm. And not even from outside of his own kingdom. There's people within the kingdom who are going to be like, you didn't win this. It's like you got this because your dad you got this because your dad snuffed it.
Yeah. So there's only one gym badge for every region.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now just imagine like every single warlord just like having a single like badge that represents a region. Like every time they lose, like either it's taken from them or they willingly give it up or something. It's like, no, don't take my badge. I have the badge of the kingdom now.
They all have crowns to some degree. So I'm thinking that's what that's for.
Actually, yeah, okay. And then a couple other things I wanted to ask you about, like not necessarily with this chapter, but of the story itself, if you can.
Yeah.
Just because I am purely curious. This is just pure curiosity questions. Because like in the recent podcast that we did, like the special anniversary one, you mentioned that like Joe Cullen was able to make a character because he won the competition there in that sense. Yeah. And so out of curiosity, if you don't want to say, then great, awesome, but like is the character, like obviously it's an original character, but like how do I phrase this?
Like how involved will that character be?
Yeah, just out of pure curiosity.
So they won't be a main character by any means. They will make appearances. They will even contribute to certain events.
Okay.
But they won't be like a driving force in the story.
But I feel like their personality is going to inform that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. There's a fair amount of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just curious.
So because Joe Clone chose to make his character grass type warrior,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll see them sooner than later.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Nice.
Yeah.
Personally, I would have gone with Shiny Metagross, so just saying.
Well, then you wouldn't be appearing till Valora, which, maybe we'll get to that in like 5 years or something.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Hey, Dad. So thanks for celebrating my 17th birthday. So, what's this thing to try? Oh man, we're in the home stretch of Pokemon Warpath. It's gonna be great.
Sorry, son, I have to miss your graduation. It's time for the 55th.
55th death day. 55th Cry Death Day.
I'm gonna have to miss my grandson's graduation. It's time for the 55th Your Hero Academia podcast.
No, it's high school graduation. His college graduation.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Like the 55th annual New Year's podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my word.
What was I gonna say? What'd you think of the integrate? Like, so you know how in the game the first battle is with Ignis, right? The Fire Nation.
Yeah.
Like the Fire Nation attack. What?
Yeah.
How did you feel about the setup for that conflict?
I do really like. I mean, I like it because honestly, it's a lot better than. Well, I mean, honestly, if I'm being perfectly blunt, the stories of any Pokemon game, as much potential as they have, isn't all that deep. So.
Oh yeah, they're children's games. They're very simplified.
Yeah. So I do like the.
Wrong one.
My brain just broke for a second. I'm sorry.
No worries. The setup.
I do like the kind of like the political implications, like, oh hey, we have people that are attacking the borders, and we're having people, and this warlord is kind of a loser nerd. So next thing you know, he's gonna have the physical appearance of Karai. But in all seriousness, I do definitely like the setup that you have in this sense. So I mean, honestly, I don't have a whole lot to.
It sounds like I'm off to a solid start at least.
You're wrong. The secret leader of the Fire Nation is actually going to be the character Mataris riding in on a dragon and burning everything down.
Mataris will not appear in this story.
Not with that attitude. Oh, actually, no. I can't even say not with that attitude because
Mataris
you
will appear in the
lied to
story.
us.
It'll be his secret twin brother, Fataris.
No
iterations
of Mataris. No alternate versions. Just no. He doesn't appear. He's not in the story. It's not.
Then he's like, "Oh, hey, I said that no alternate versions appear. This is just a Mataris that has a different name but has the exact same personality."
Be like, technically, I didn't lie. I just, you know.
I just phrased it in a way that you wouldn't be able to find out, even though that's lying by omission.
Mataris won't appear in the story. He'll just be mentioned in the story a few times about all the cool stuff he's doing behind the scenes.
Oh my goodness.
See, here's the thing. The minute you did that thing with Karai, your reputation was shot. Just saying.
My reputation was shot. Yeah, I know. But hey,
Mataris will appear in all the Yomakis.
Don't take the writer at their word.
Well,
you'll get the story ruined for you otherwise.
Well, screw you too, man. Oh man. But anyways,
again, why do people ask the writers to reveal stuff ahead of time? It's just like
because it's literally what you start the story with.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you started the story.
If you didn't start the story like that, then I'd be like, okay.
This is the story of how I die.
I mean, it wasn't wrong.
Well, see, Tangled can do that because it's like, oh yeah, but this is actually a pretty happy story, but it's not even mine. That Tangled can get away with that because Flynn Rider's not the main character. Karai, on the other hand, was the main character.
What you're saying is I should have had a future era writing. This is the story of how Karai died.
Yeah. Also, Flynn Rider's better than Karai, so he gets pass.
Wait. If the whole story was a audio recording, what's the story now? What's the audio? Who's the storyteller?
Exactly.
No one's reliable anymore.
Exactly.
What's happening?
That's been my problem.
He's still documenting his journal.
That's the story. Oh my gosh.
He's writing in his diary, guys.
What about when he died?
That's his character.
Diary.
He asked everyone for very specific details about his funeral, and then wrote it down in a journal.
Yep.
So who exactly attended my funeral? Who exactly cried? Oh wait. He didn't cry.
I need to know how the principal reacted.
Did he name an entire building after me? Oh, he is going up on my niceness for this Christmas. Oh man, but
you guys,
anyways,
his
back to
flaws that he keeps a girly diary.
Exactly.
Just have that. If you include that into the story in a substantial way, then I will forgive everything. So
his character flaw
just saying,
is that he keeps a girly
balls
diary?
In your court.
That's the requirement.
Yes.
It has to be a substantial amount. It can't be a one-off, or it can't be in the Omake, like with freaking Deadwood, and be like, oh man, he's in the story now.
I can easily arrange that. I can arrange that so easily. Let's do it.
It has to be a complete 15-page chapter.
I'm not gonna make it a 15-page chapter, but there will be at least 15 pages dedicated to the material throughout the story.
Okay.
He's thinking about it. Anyway.
Alrighty, let's see.
All right.
Real quick, so something that these guys pointed out to me the other day was that like the word count for Your Hero Academia is just ridiculously long.
Yep.
So what I'm gonna start doing on these is I'm gonna start doing a word count. I'm gonna keep track of the word count for the story going forward. So the first chapter of Pokemon Warpath totals up to 6,245 words.
Okay.
So as each chapter releases, I will give a word count for the individual chapter, and then I will put together like how much that is for the story overall.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm good with that. That'll be interesting to see.
So like did we set like a benchmark for like when too long is too long? Because I know
I personally did.
Surpassed that, but
I did.
You did. When does it get too long?
75 chapters, but you're way past that now, aren't you?
I mean, hey, if we'd stopped at 75 chapters, it would have been right before Kunai died.
Oh, but then you would have gone a couple more chapters, and then he would have died, and it wrapped a perfect bow around the whole story.
Exactly.
True.
Oh man.
Don't take
everything's
their side.
sad. The end.
It's no secret. I was like, really, man?
Yeah, but personally, like in all seriousness, like with me, and granted, this is I say with how I write stories, with the implication that I haven't actually finished anything more than a single one shot.
I mean, hey, you wrote that. Well, that was a good one shot. That was a fun one shot.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I am almost done with my Pokemon one because I was able to get out of my slump. So
nice.
That should be done in a few days, which ironically has a lot of similarities to this story right here, and like that wasn't intentional. That was like I just like wrote down like a bunch of one-shot ideas. I'm like, okay, which one would be the most fun to start out with, and which one do I believe in the most, so to speak. And I chose this one, and I'm like, okay, and then I'm like reading this, I'm like, oh wow, okay. But anyways, the point is that with that being said, one of the good benchmarks that for me personally, like whenever, like even like in reading a story, and granted this is dependent on the chapter length. If we're assuming that the chapter lengths are like the length of like 10 pages, or like what your average chapter is, like between 10 to 20 pages, then like I would personally say that like 20, 30 chapters are like the perfect amount for a story. That's me personally. And if it's like chapters that are like 5 pages each, and like maybe like 30, 40 pages. Again, it's dependent on the story itself.
Yeah.
But I
honestly,
I don't like, because again, we're seeing this with Your Hero, is that it gets to the point where like I'm not reading for the sake of myself, I'm reading for the sake of reading.
Yeah. So I think this one is gonna. I want to say it's gonna land somewhere between 40 and 50 chapters.
Okay, of like the average 10-page length, or
it's
like what's the average? What would you say is like the average page?
I think the chapters are gonna be. I think the chapters on average are gonna be longer than this one. But let me see some of these files that I've got set. Oh, that's the wrong file.
Okay.
Sorry, hang on.
Oh wait, I actually put this file in the Discord. Whoops.
Whoops-a-daisy.
Oh man! And then next thing I'm screen capping it. Like I screen cap everything you put in the Discord. So you then delete. Like, I screen cap, just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No worries. Like it'll be between. On average, it's gonna be between 10 and 20 pages of.
Okay. Yeah. Honestly, that sounds like a good story. Honestly, because.
All right. Yeah.
Because like even like now with like Your Hero, I am easily expecting that to go to like 150 chapters or something like that.
Yeah.
And I am not like, if I'm being perfectly blunt, I am personally not happy with that, just because there is only so much that I can read, and with how long it already is, like not even just like how many chapters there are, but how long each chapter is and how much content is in each chapter that I'm just skimming over. So I mean, I'll keep reading it, and I'll keep reading it because I like you as a writer, and as a person, I respect you.
So do you think? Should I have like chopped it up into? Should I chop it up into multiple stories, or what? Or what do you think I should have done with that?
So I know that you said like, hey, like each one is a different book, and I know that's your reasoning, and I totally get that. I totally get that. It's easier like for people to follow, and I do understand that. Like, here's an example I'm giving. I'm never gonna finish this, but like I have like an entire like thing planned for my SAO thing.
Yeah.
It's never gonna get written, but I'm probably gonna like divide into like different actual files, so to speak, just because like it's more for my own peace of mind than anything, because then it's simpler and I'm not like overwhelming people, and it's like more bite size. I see why you did it, but that's just me personally.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah, it makes sense because it's more digestible. It's
kind of like how Lord of the Rings is like. Yes, it's one collective story, but it's into 3 different books.
Yes. Yeah, lessons I learned for later.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, it's too late to change the format. But you know,
I get it. I totally get it.
One that's going to be really long again. Then I know, okay, it's more palatable if I actually like divvy it up into.
It doesn't feel complete.
Yeah.
Like if you had like regardless of like if people followed in, like it making it easier for people to like remember that it was still a thing, like okay, great. But like it seemed like a complete story and a complete book. It's like okay, I can go back and like reread this part easily, or I can go back and read this part easily. Okay. Whereas with your hero, as of now, it's like okay, where does everything end and where does everything begin?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So that's me personally. But anyways,
no, it's a good point. Like this is why I do this because I need to learn stuff.
He started releasing the story while we were in our hardcore Naruto phase. So it's just like the story that never ends.
That explains so much.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? My Hero Academia is still ongoing. So you know what?
I know it's a 10-year long anime.
That's not just on. It's not just on me. I've been sticking fairly close to the source material. There's only been a few times where I've put in like surplus content.
Yeah. No, I'll give that to you.
It's a long story.
It's a very long story. Not as long as the story. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Never mind. Yeah, it is a long story.
Yeah, it's like what 100 something episodes. Like how many episodes now?
Admittedly, a lot of those episodes I don't like, but it's fluff. But it's still a very good. Like I still love My Hero. My Hero is still very good. Still love it. If I didn't love it, I would have made an entire trailer dedicated to it.
I know. So great.
So yeah, it's let's see, it's 138 episodes plus some OVAs.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get us like all off track anymore.
No, you're good. You're good.
I know it turned into an MHA discussion.
You guys have seen our podcast. You know how we tend to derail.
Yeah, this is like an hour long at this point, but
yeah, we can edit too.
Oh, is it? Wow,
sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All
right.
Sure. Is there anything else that? Or Robin, did you want to say anything or
No.
Okay, no problem.
Poor thing, he's just dying over there.
Yeah, I know.
I appreciate you
Sorry,
Robin. And you're not feeling too good.
I'm pretty alert. It's just kind of feels like a head cold right now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I totally get. I was getting over something for like the past week, and my throat is still in recovery period. I know, right?
All of the teachers, we had a pajama day this week, and all of the teachers, we were just like, we're taking our bathrobes and we're doing duty in our bathrobes.
That actually sounds really nice.
It was amazing,
unironically.
but it was so funny because we're all standing outside in the rain.
It's raining over there too.
Afternoon, yeah, we're having like a serious rainstorm here.
It rains here all the time.
Well, yeah, no, but in Southern California and LA, we've had like a 3-day rain, and that never happens.
Yeah, New Mexico too. We rarely.
It's kind of life for me.
Rain.
I know, right?
Anyway, it was so funny because we're all standing there, and all the teachers are like, "My throat hurts, mine too. All my kids were throwing up today. Yeah, me too."
Yeah. All right, kids, turn to page 394. We're talking about werewolves today.
Yes.
All right. So Silver's played the game. Robin hasn't. So as these podcasts go forward, I'll be interested to see like what you guys make of this as somebody who has played the game and somebody who hasn't.
Okay. Oh, there is one thing that I wanted to ask that I remembered about the game specifically. I don't think you're going to put this in the story just because it is more a gameplay mechanic. But actually 2 things. One, are Pokemon going to evolve? Let me ask that.
Yes.
Okay, yes, cool, because that doesn't
evolve.
Really happen in the does that happen
in the game? Yeah.
Does it? I don't even remember. It's been so long. I feel like it's one of those things where
you either have to have them hit a certain stat and then level them up in one particular kingdom, like for Leafeon, you have to have its speed up to a certain stat, and then its defense up to a certain stat. You play with it in Greenleaf, and it'll evolve into a Leafeon. You have give it a Water Stone to hold on to, send it into one battle, turns into Vaporeon, so on and so forth.
Flareon is best. Flareon is best.
Flareon is my favorite
evolution.
All right, cool. Hang on to that because I think Flareon will be in this story. I think you'll like its incoming.
Is that our son's favorite?
Yes, and then our daughter's
He's so fluffy.
Vaporeon.
I like Umbreon.
She
hers
always changes.
is Vaporeon.
Hers is Vaporeon.
Yeah.
Hers has changed. Her whole class is obsessed with Eevees right now, so they all have a different evolution that they're into. Yeah.
Nice. All right. And then conversely, because like in the game, like their entire thing's like, oh hey, warlords can evolve because they need a way like to boost warlord stats. I'm guessing that's not going to happen par for par in the story.
It's not gonna happen the same way that it does in the game. It's gonna be very different how it happens in this story.
Is it just gonna be like a ceremony where like, oh hey, this guy's become significantly better, or
no. No.
Whoa, he said no. Come on, Silver.
Well, he said no. Oh, well, understandable. Have a nice day.
No means no, guys.
I mean, I think I told you how it's going to work, right?
I don't remember. I'm
you don't
sorry.
Remember? Oh, okay, all right.
I have no memory of this place.
But so Pokemon evolution definitely going to be a thing. Warlord evolution, not to the same degree or mechanic that it happens in the game, but it will be a thing.
Okay.
But,
all right. Well, cool. No, that was just one thing that I remember. Like, okay, I need to ask him about this because. Man, I can't wait to see that one character who runs into Nobunaga's castle like ahead of the army, and then he's instantly obliterated by the stupid castle, and then it's revealed that his name was Silver.
Too many of you have run into a fire screaming, Leroy Jenkins. Yeah, more than one of you. And by that, it grabs to exterminate the whole species.
And then Keihachi's like, why did the new rookie Silver just run into the castle?
I just thought of something. Silver's either gonna love this or absolutely despise it.
Oh, no.
Is it something you're gonna reveal or something you're gonna put in the story?
Something I'm gonna put in the story.
I'll
let you know let you know when it comes. I will let you know when it comes. And you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it.
What?
There's like no middle ground for this.
Okay, well don't tell me it because you're not telling us.
Well, and I don't know. That's just making me think of like that one line from The Office, but like I'm gonna change. It's like, why is Mataris treating the magician poorly? Or like, why is Mataris treating the warlord poorly? Okay, but anyways.
Well, thank you guys very much for joining us for this.
Yeah,
no, thank you. It was a fun time. I always love talking with you guys. It's always fun, and I love discussing stories, and I love wallowing in my own self-pity of my own stories that are never going to get finished. But I'm going to finish this one.
And you know what? I'm on break now, so we are open for gaming sessions if you guys
I would absolutely I'm going to be visiting my relatives over Midwest.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, obviously I don't know what we're going to be doing there. But I'm going to bring my Switch, and I'm going to have internet, and I can definitely be up for some gaming sessions.
Yeah, let's do it.
I need communication with the outside world.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyways, again, this was very fun. I have to go and get ready for stuff, but
well, would you guys be up for doing this again sometime?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Definitely. Right, cool. And a lot, I guess, again, when like when the story is like a bit more
developed
down the way, but B, you know, I don't mean to make this shameless self promo, but I would absolutely love to like have one of these, like if I ever finish my own one shot, just so I can like have like more opinions of like, and because I want to get better as a writer as well.
Let's do it.
And I mean that's the whole point of this community. So yay!
Awesome. I will try to speed run my one shot.
All right.
And you, Robin, you down to do this again?
Yeah.
All right.
Yay.
Cool. Hopefully you'll be.
All right. Well, have a great day and a Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
guys.
Christmas to all you guys and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. All right. Have a good one.
Feel
Bye.
better.